Good morning, Opening Pathways viewers. This is Tom LeNoble. It is great to be with you again. And today I have Cindy Eggleton, and Cindy is the CEO of Brilliant Cities. And I have been looking forward to this podcast. Cindy and I met and immediately had a connection in the way we think about things and in being service to others. So I'm excited for you to be able to experience Cindy today and what she's working on. Cindy, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Thank you, Tom, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I just loved our initial discussion.
Ah, good. Well, here we go. So I want to know, I want to get just started at the beginning of telling us a little bit about Brilliant Cities and what sparked your idea to step into it.
Yeah, so I'm a co-founder along with Carolyn and Jim Bellinson, and Brilliant Cities exist to create what we call kid success neighborhoods, neighborhoods where kids and families have everything they need in the middle of a neighborhood. We repurpose a house and we work with the entire family, what we call belly to eight, both the adults and the children. And you know what we were thinking at the time is there's a couple of different things from my standpoint. One, I was a funder previously. I had a $60 million portfolio, and I sort of saw what worked to change lives and what didn't work. And I didn't think we were really centering people and their experience and their agency and what could be. And then the second thing for me is I'm a first generation high school graduate. My family came out of poverty. My mom was in foster care until she was 12, both for poverty and her heritage being Native American. And so this is really personal. When we started 10 years ago, it seemed like a crazy idea. People were like, "You're doing this out of a house? Do people live there?" No, they don't. But the idea of having that house in the middle of a neighborhood where people gather, but they're also getting what they need, um, is an idea whose time has come. And so we started in Detroit. We've served 30,000 people there, and we have now 42 cities on a waiting list in 12 countries. I think what happened and is happening is this need and desire to be connected again, to be community again. And in this world, that's more important than ever. And it is just something that I personally have such determination around. And so we're achieving all kinds of goals. We're seeing 3 reading levels of growth. We're seeing significant improvement in education, health, family support. It's really a poverty buster in so many ways. I think the thing I'm most proud about is that people are reporting that they feel more connected and they belong in ways they never did. And you know what, Tom? If that's what we can create in the world, which is really people in the neighborhoods doing it, we have a very intentional model along that way. Those are the things that can begin to change our world.
Just amazing. This is I feel like you're singing a lullaby to me and what we need in these times that we're living in. And this idea of bringing people together, I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing the desire for people to want to be together again. And I'm not going to discount the benefits of the ability for us to have this technology we have. It's certainly one of the gifts of what we went through with COVID is that we have this ability you and I may have never met. And look what we get to share. So it's fascinating to me. Tell me this, when, what was the moment when you said, "This is my path, Brilliant Cities, I'm now on my path"?
Yeah. So I'm going to say that, I've gotten asked this before, and I have to think about it. I think all my experiences have led to this path. However, 2 things happened. One, I was in a meeting with a number of organizations that did really good work. And the question, we put people that were experiencing trauma and different things in the room. We were able to ask everybody, what is your mission? Easy to answer. And then two, what value are you giving to those that you just talked to? The room was silent for an uncomfortable period of time. And at that point, I knew that I had to go on a different path. I was able to meet my co-founders. I didn't know exactly what shape this would take. The idea of being in the houses was Jim Bellinson's, but the model was sort of something we talked about for a year. And I think that put this on a path of what if people are at the center of the work? What if they have their own agency? They're making their decisions. It's proximate to them. We hire from neighborhoods. 33% of our staff on the ground are former participants or for the neighborhood. What if that happened? It was kind of a radical idea. When I started, I took a 75% pay cut. I'm a little bit more seasoned in life, so that was probably a little bit nuts. But it's the best thing I ever did and do. I see more impact than I've ever seen in anything. And it's both the numbers and it's the people's lives that are changed. And so that's what fuels me. People always ask, what keeps you up at night? Oh, everything. But what gets me up in the morning is really people, the people that we work alongside. And I actually, I have somebody who asks me all the time on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? I'm always a 10, very rarely a 9. And that is why. And I'm not doing easy things, but it's because I both believe and I see this. And the fact that, look, we don't push this model on others, but we have all these groups saying, we need this, we want this. It's a world right now where we need connection, and we have to think about how to reinvent our systems in a way that puts people at the center.
Yeah,
Uh, we don't have the neighborhood school to a large degree, the neighborhood church, the community. So it's time to change that, and that's the path we're on.
I love
I
it.
should say, this is a path also that we're looking to get to 250,000 people in the next 10 years. It's audacious, but we're going to do it, Tom, because I think that gets to enough critical mass to have a way forward.
Yes, I believe you will do it, and I encourage you to say 250,000 or more or better, and not limited at that. I happen to believe that that powers things up when we really, really let it be expansive beyond even what we might imagine. When you look at yourself personally today, Cindy, um, how are you fundamentally different than the person who started Brilliant Cities?
It's such good questions, all of them, Tom. I think I'm in my space in being. I know 1,000,000% my purpose. I recently went through an exercise that was interesting to me, and it was a visualization of death is knocking at your door. Okay. Who's around you? What do you say? What do you want to change? I had absolutely nothing to change. And then your life is given back. And I'm like, okay, great. What am I going to, I'm going to be doing the same thing. That was so powerful for me, Tom, because um, we all ask those questions of ourselves so we can face it in front of us. It can be right before us. But I think as individuals, the question is, how are you living your life to align all those things, both in what you do and who you surround yourself with? And so I think my fundamental difference is I've lined it all up. It felt very organic also because I feel so determined in this work. But it's an important, very important. I want that for everybody.
I love this. We went through a change in the year for that calendar we made up as humans, but we went through a change in the year. We are in February, and I might ask a few questions of you today about that change that happened. And I'm curious, like, what belief about yourself have you outgrown in like the last year? Has something shifted that you've outgrown?
I'm going to say it's it's beyond the last year. It's something I've come to. That's a really important lesson. And again, Tom, you're so deep. I just really feel honored to be
Thank
on
you.
this with you. And I think what it is I am an individual that felt that in life I needed to serve, right? So always give value, always. What I didn't recognize is it's two-way. It's value in and value out. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that it is in a purpose-driven way. And when you get that equation right, it's unstoppable and you can make decisions that that's just not for me because I'm on a hamster wheel. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not going to do that. So I think this has been a journey for me as a human, and I'm fully in that right now. Um, so I think that's the main thing. I think the other thing for me, I would say, is a life lesson, is be present. And if you cannot be present in what you're doing, figure that out.
Yeah.
Because it's it gets to that value and value out of what matters with others and with yourself. And so I think that's where I would leave that. And I think I've really
Yeah.
stepped into it. It's an equation for me that I don't have to think about all the time, but it's definitely in my gut.
I love this be present. I work with so many people that I find that they live in the past. It's as if there's going to be a do-over, or we're like watching that video on our phone and it gives you the option to go back 10 seconds, like we get to do that. And um, right here, right now is where the magic is. Certainly, if you can learn something from your past, if you get too far in the future, you're getting a little dangerous, other than making sure the lights are on and the food's in the refrigerator, the kids are cared for, because we woke up this morning. Some people did not. And I love this idea of being present. I'm curious, what values, what are your personal values that have driven you from the start?
Yeah, so I think that is getting merged with what my values in work are. Okay, so um and until you just asked this question, I don't know if I thought about that most recently, right? Like, you often say like, what are your values? Like, integrity, etc. But I think I am driven by three things, and they happen to be the values of Brilliant Cities. That is love, safety, and growth. And by that, I mean, I love first always. And I show up that way. And I've learned that in some situations that weren't easy in life and with family. All you've got is love. It's your job also that people can feel safe with you and in that. And how do you do that? And I mean that by just showing up, being present, all of those things. And then you grow and you grow as an individual, but together, and how that is. Those are the pieces for me that I feel I've been put on this earth to live and realize and bring to others. So I think those are the pieces. And like I said, until you asked that, I realized that my values merged. That's how I am.
Yeah, thank you. How has your relationship with risk changed as your responsibility has grown at Brilliant Cities?
Mhm. Another good question, and I think, look at, I'm not terribly risk averse. I think there can be risk by not acting. And I think that can be a problem. You have to be thoughtful. You have to be clear where you stand and what you are and what you are about. Um, I think we are in a world where change happens all the time. And so there is a need to be fluid and also to experiment sometimes. It doesn't have to be forever. Again, with risk, you don't have to say this is a forever decision. You can narrow it down a little bit a few years back, and still the idea of design thinking um, has been a big impetus in the work. And so I think I'm stepping into that even more. I think the one thing that would stand out from me in terms of a descriptor is I'm highly determined. So when there's a decision to do and be and go, I will make sure that happens. And I'm aware of that. Um, I'm a lot like my mother was in that, and we called her stubborn. I'm calling it determination, but it is that sort of grit to move things forward. So
Yes,
I
yes.
think those are the pieces.
How does Cindy decide when to pivot or push through?
And geez, you are so awesome. Um, I think it has to do with both the word I'm going to the expression which changed for me during COVID. I used to be a head heart person. I balance those. But for me, it's also head, heart, and shoulders.
Hmm.
And so I think it's when it's based on those components, on when it's time to pivot or push through. Um, so there's factual components of it, but there's also where are we? And by heart, I also mean just gut values. What are we trying to get done? And but there's also a shoulder component on what can you uniquely do and be um, that I think is really important as leaders.
I love this. I've learned in my career and in life that some of my biggest mistakes turned out to be my biggest success. Have you had a mistake that taught you more than any success?
Always, you know what, this is a theme for me right now, in terms of thinking about, there is a book I'm reading, which is, The Challenge is the Way. And I think I might have the title wrong, but that's the idea. And it was pretty profound for me recently. I had the opportunity to go to the Harvard not-for-profit leadership, and that was that was the piece. Is your life journey? What was your big, you know, failure? Without question, everybody's failure is their path forward if you let yourself see that. And so um, for me, I don't know if there's one particular or there's many, and I'm just really looking at that at this point to sort of look at what can be learned here? What does this mean? Both for me personally, or if I see that, as opposed to, oh my God, this is a failure. And let me just dust myself off. It's really like, hmm, what's here? And I think that there's a lot of truth to that.
Yes, yes. So I'm curious, when do you recognize fear as information versus a stop sign? If a bear's chasing us, there's a fear that's different than some of the fears that may come
Yeah.
along in life. And when is it information and not a full stop?
Yeah, I'm trying right at this moment. This is something I'm trying to like think about. Uh, and I'm fairly fearless, and that's not always a good thing. You know, I think for me, likely it is, there can be an intuition that there's danger, and in particular, if it's a family member or something in that, to protect and full stop. So I think I'm exploring that rather than being able to fully answer that right now. I think it's healthy to explore it and to take a step back, sort of like the Buddhist are like it's there, recognize it. You don't have to embrace it, but what do you see and feel in
Yeah,
that? Um, so actually, it's like I said, it's at this moment something I'm doing some thinking and
yeah.
reflecting on.
What fear has become for me is an opportunity for growth.
Mm.
If I can be present with what I'm feeling, there's typically actually almost always some place in it that I can grow from it, and it seems to take the power out of it. So that's been my experience lately that I'll just share with you and throw in the mix as you're thinking it over. So I'm curious, Cindy.
Tam, I just want to say I really
Okay,
appreciate it.
please.
It's like a moment of wisdom, right? Like that's a great moment, like to just taking the power out of some of these things. I just want to
Thank
thank
you.
you for that.
Thank you so much for recognizing that. So I'm curious, I wonder what you're most proud of. And I'm not speaking of publicly or professionally, but personally, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, so I think I don't tend to actually necessarily think that way, but it's not necessarily accolades. I think I'm most centered and I guess proud of having a life that I feel good living and having around me. I have amazing family around me that I have great relationships with, friends. I think in general in life, I'm really happy to walk alongside other people for their journeys and their successes. And so I guess I have to reflect on the word proud. I'm proud of them, perhaps. I'm glad to be along for the journey. You know, I never use the word empower because I think I am have the privilege of walking alongside other people's power and watching that come to full fruition, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. So tell me this. Um, what boundary have you put in place that has become essential to your sustainability?
Yeah, so boundaries are really important, right? I think it's that value in, value out is at the middle of it. But I've been tested here, like we're all tested in life. I had a sister who was an alcoholic and died from it. And so there becomes you have to see, are you able to be in that equation properly? Um, and so I do that all the time. I had somebody say to me the other day, Cindy, you put a boundary up with me. You said, look at with 5 minutes, I want to be present for you, but I can't right now, and I'm not going to go into my next thing with energy. So I think I am probably old enough or been through things enough where it's more natural. And I think boundaries are incredibly important. Without them, you're expending your energy. A really good friend said to me, are you pushing the ball down into the water, which you can really feel that's where your energy is, or letting it go? And I think about that. So I think that's the balance for me.
Yes, yeah. I love this idea because I think these boundaries, which many perceive as a word of stop, stay away, are more about protecting and honoring when we're in the space for whatever's coming for us. And I believe we do a service even to others of modeling that behavior, and we become more human, especially leaders, of being willing to say, I can't do that right now.
Yeah.
And I think how we do it shifts everything, but I think there's definitely something really important about that. Um, Cindy,
Yeah.
how do you,
I just want to say the
go ahead,
how we
please.
do it. You're so full of wisdom. You're asking me questions, but Tom, you have so much wisdom.
Oh, Cindy, thank you so much. Um, how do you balance being a leader with being a learner?
I think a leader is a learner. And it's interesting. I did this leadership thing a bazillion years ago, 2012. And it was like, what are the top 5 leadership things? And the main thing is self-awareness. And that's in relation to others and what and how you can learn. I'm a learner as a human being. If I'm not learning and growing, I'm disengaged. And so I think leading is listening. That's a really big thing. It's hearing. It's allowing yourself to be open. And I think there's just learning new things, growing as a human. But I also think there's learning about others. I can't tell you how many times I have, or I've seen others say, this is the way it is, and it isn't. If you take the time to listen, you learn. You learn about another, you learn about a situation, and you grow. And so I think an evolved leader is a learner.
Yes, yes. I often say that on my last breath, I will sit up and say, wait a minute, I need some information. I need to learn something about this before I take this last breath. Um, Tell me, what does renewal look like for you beyond the typical rest and time off?
Yeah, so that is something for me. I'm driven, I've said that, and determined. So that describes a person is moving all the time. And that's true of me. Um, and so I'm different because people will say, okay, you go do yoga, go do that doesn't work for me. Because I get renewal by doing something more likely, maybe something different. What I think I've learned on renewal is I sometimes need white space for me. And that is, it's a joke amongst people who work with me. I'm like, I just need to go stare at a wall a little bit. Like just be quiet. And I have learned to um curate that for myself is the quiet. That quiet might be a walk where I'm quiet, which is very much renewal. It's not necessarily the typical. And I think that's an important thing as we talk about how do we heal, how do we have renewal, how do we do all those things. It may be individually different. It certainly is for me. Um, and what I call it is how do I recenter myself? And a lot of times it's walking away from what I'm in, even changing environments, um, to get to that and being okay with that, to say, hey, I'm not going to take that meeting right now because I'm just out of juice. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And so again, I think it's being clear where you are and recognizing that that's okay. It's good.
Yeah. Where are you choosing courage over certainty right now?
Oh, I think always that I think that's my MO is like and I hope for the world that we all do more of that. Or I guess certainty or comfort. It's a world that it's time for being courageous. It probably always has been a world that way. Um, Allowing multiple voices in there, but um, acting on what you see, believe, hear. Um, so yes, I think I've learned in life, there's not always certainty, right? It changes, it's fluid. Um, and that was an important lesson. I used to think I could do more or do things differently and change outcomes. You can't always. It's an equation. We are humans. We are living alongside others. You have to find that both balance and place.
Yes. So I have a question for you. It's something that I have been exploring over the past year or so in my own personal life. What does legacy mean to you at this stage of life?
Um, yes. I have had a hard time with that question before. I actually recall somebody saying to me, what do you want on your gravestone? And me saying, I have no idea. Where I saw people in this room being able to answer it, and I could not. I think it was took me a month. Um, and so I think for me is I think I might need to redo my legacy thing because I thought it was she gave and got value. That was like I think it's certainly the brilliant cities is a legacy, right? But I think at the center of it is um, somebody who listens deeply and acts on what others want and
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Um, I think that's the legacy. I'm going to think about that further for a more succinct answer because I think sometimes when you have those pieces, it does help you with how you live. Did this exercise previously, which is your unique ability. Those statements help in your head
yeah,
on where
yeah.
you are.
Yeah, I wrestled with it myself, being a philanthropist. I was an anonymous philanthropist for until last year and really, really questioned why, after I let it out of the bag, so to speak, why I had done that. And there were a number of reasons, but one brought me to this legacy question. And I don't particularly plan to have the tombstone. I do have a rock in the National AIDS Grove with I did for my brother, and I put my name on it as well. And I often say, and it's on that rock, love is the answer. But
Right.
one thing that became for me about legacy is I took it out of being about me and it became for me as it's evolving and it still is that the things I'm doing continue on after I'm not here
Yeah.
and not necessarily attached to me. They don't have to be attached to me, but that I planted trees that I'll never see the shade of, so to speak. Yes.
I love that. And that's going to help me rethink about because I do think true legacy is not about you.
Yeah. Thank you. I-
Um, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. If your younger self, a much younger Cindy, was watching this podcast, what would you tell her?
You did good, kid. um, so many ways I'm that younger self to where I am now. I think it's been a path. And I'm grateful to have recognized the path. I do think that we all have things in front of us that we don't embrace sometimes because it's not what we thought it would be or whatever. Um, so, you know, I will say that I won this poetry award when I was in fourth grade. And I just recently saw this poem that was going through some things. My mother had saved it. And it was about creating a world that was different. And yeah, That's my younger self would say bravo. My older self would say bravo to the
I
younger self.
love it. I love it. So if your story could leave an invitation today with our listeners, what would it be?
Yeah, I think there's my story and there's the Brilliant Cities story, and I think it's one of connection and love. And what I would say is, first off, finding your purpose is everything. Living it is really important, and I want that for everybody. I talk to people all the time and say, take 30 minutes, write down. It's amazing how it comes out,
Yeah.
what that is, and do it. Um, I think the message that I have for everybody in regards to the work with Brilliant Cities is being community and connection is it. It's everything. And I encourage all of us to find that community and to be that community. It it matters. We are social beings, and I hope the world can be more like that, less disconnected, more connected.
Thank you. Thank you. Cindy, thank you for being on Opening Pathways today. Would you please tell us how we find you, how we find Brilliant Cities, how we donate?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So we have a website and it's brilliantcities.org, and you can go on there, you can donate. Also, email us at info@brilliantcities.org. You will find often I'm answering. I love to find people and what they want and make that happen together. So that would be wonderful.
Wonderful. Cindy Eggleton, co-founder and CEO of Brilliant Cities. Thank you for being on Opening Pathways today, and please know you have made my life richer today.
You're gonna make me cry because, Tom, you have done that as well. And thank you for what you do because um, you are leaving your legacy.
Thank you so much. And to my viewers, this is Tom LeNoble, and I'll see you next time.